I'm Walton Ford, and I'm an artist. I grew up in the suburbs outside of New York City, but both my parents are from the South of America, and the traditions in the South, often there's a lot of hunting and fishing, and my uncles and aunts still lived down there, and we would visit, and they had big, sort of almost like plantation houses, really. This was the kind of background I grew up. So there'd be guns and fishing rods and a lot of amateur natural history. So the kind of people I grew up with, they could identify the birds that we saw. My dad would pick up a snake off the ground and tell me, what kind it was, and we wouldn't be afraid, and we would catch a lot of fish and like cut them and clean them, and duck hunting. These things happened in my childhood, so I understood this sort of, I was around this idea of the hunting, natural history kind of milieu, But I grew up in suburban New York, so it was right outside of New York City, and there was almost no nature. There might be a little bit of woods next to the golf course, or there'd be a little bit of shoreline where the houses weren't built. And that's where I would go, and I would capture little animals and bring them home and keep them in the bathtub or in my closet or wherever. So I had birds and snakes and frogs and turtles and things that I would bring home from my expeditions in the suburban woods. And this was just my impulse since I was a little kid. I would have a box with a string and a stick, and I put a peanut butter sandwich, and the wild birds would come and they would start to eat the sandwich, and then I'd pull the string and I'd have the blue jay, type of American jay, and put a little string on his foot, and I'd have him for a day. He would like fly around, and then I'd let him go at the end of the day. This was the kind of childhood I had. So, and I never quit. My brother is a natural history artist, and he paints fish for sportsmen. He's quite well known in the community of sports fishermen, and it's very traditional what he does. It's the fish. He taught me to draw and paint when I was quite young. He was a talented draftsman, and I followed his footsteps. And then I went off to art school, and I left this behind, and in the back of my mind I knew it was a big part of me. But in art school it was all theory, and it was intimidating. And I drew animals when I was a kid, but I didn't draw them in art school. I thought, I'm going to be a filmmaker. I'm going to make narrative films. I saw Herzog, and I thought maybe I'd make films about nature like he does, But it turns out I had no talent for film, and I kept drawing and painting in my apartment, in my studio at home. So when I got to New York, I knew what I had to do. I had to become a painter, and I had to tell these stories about nature, and it just turned into what I do now. I went back to what I did when I was 10 years old, and I think that's a very good thing to do if you're an artist.